Hey, howdy and hello, folks. Welcome back into T1A. Got a fun episode for you. Draft's coming up. Need to get some rookies out there. About that.
What's up, everybody? Like Tank said, it's rookie season, man, and we're all out there just gobbling up everything we can, taking in all the information we can get, looking at film, listening to like interview reports, where these guys are visiting, watching pro days, all this crap, trying to figure out who the top dogs are. Well, in all of that, of course, you got the elite guys that everybody keeps talking about, got the middle tier guys everybody keeps talking about. We got the guys now. We're like, hey, we're getting around where these dudes that nobody's been really talking about are they're starting to get tested out, they're starting to get their game film broken down. They're starting to come to light a little bit. So what Tank and I got today is 4 dudes apiece that we're saying, hey, keep your eyes on these guys, watch where they get drafted, see where they're ending up at, and where you can maybe draft them. Your rookie drafts late, some decent dart throws to take. Tank, why don't you start us off? I think you're like the deep dude. Like, you're always into shit. I know that I'm Dr. Deep Stash sometimes. So I'll tell you what, when it comes down to it, like, you're pulling rookies out of your ass all the time. You're always taking the time to actually go out, take a second, view some of these guys' films. Start us off. I think this is something you should start off.
Well, thank you. At this point last year, like Dameon Pierce was barely even talked about.
Yeah,
but we were like, oh, you need to grab him. So this is something just to keep your eye out. Like, hey, you can see these names come up. Maybe it's something you should be looking at. First one's going to be Jonathan Mingo. He's out of Ole Miss. Guy is 6'1", 226. Another one of those big athletic wide receivers out of Ole Miss. You know, it skipped a generation with Elijah Mitchell or Elijah Moore. You know, AJ Brown. You know, that pedigree there is what he is. He's 4.46 40. His speed ranking is in the 96th percentile. Guess what he can't do? He's not super crisp at running routes, but he's a big athletic guy. Last year, he only had 51 receptions, 861 yards for 5 touchdowns. But that's also on the ghost of whoever Ole Miss had after Matt Corral. Something that we're definitely lacking, you know, size, strength in a wide receiver. He's fast, so looking for some outside depth. Definitely a guy that could work out.
Yeah, I like it. I've actually been kind of keeping my eye on Jonathan Mingo, just watching some of his film, getting a little review done on him, but haven't finalized anything yet. But I'll probably look in deeper now that you brought him up.
I don't remember who it was, Zerline or one of those big mock guys, but he went in the second round in one of those drafts. Mock drafts. So
yeah,
there is something, a buzz about him from somewhere.
Yeah, I mean, we've seen that in our mock drafts where guys kind of up and down, and you know, we maneuvered around a little bit here, and it's fun right now. The beauty of it is going to be how wrong we are all proven when the actual draft happens, and this shit is just, it's
everything
fodder,
flips,
right? Yeah, everything we just did is going to vanish like a fart in the wind, and it's going to come down to like everything's going to change. We all know it, I think. So I got a guy, I've been doing a lot of research on the running backs, kind of digging in deep. It's such a deep class, and there's so many guys thrown together in one tier that I'm looking for things to separate guys out, reasons that guys are going to succeed in the NFL. One guy that popped off to me was Chris Rodriguez from Kentucky. Chris is 23 years old because he's a full-on, played 4 years of college and a redshirt year. So it's not like he had a long injury history or anything like that. His last senior year, he only played 8 games because he had a 4-game suspension, so there might be some attitude problems there. I don't know. At 6 foot, 217 pounds, this dude is an absolute thumper, right? He is a between the tackles, slam it down and fuck people's throats. He doesn't mix anything. He hits the line of scrimmage. He knows where the hole's supposed to be at. He gets skinny, he gets through, he gains yards. He's a good pass blocker. That's going to help him come in on third downs in the NFL. It'll help him be able to get on the field quicker than most rookies. He's a hardy, sturdy runner. 5 years, like I said, he was a 5-year college guy. 1 year was a red shirt. His junior year, he rushed for 225 carries, 1,378 yards, and 13 touchdowns. Senior year, his stats took a little bit of a hit, but he missed 4 games. 175 carries for 904 yards and 6 touchdowns. So you could see he had like a trend going on. He is not going to blow anybody away with his hands. He's not a great pass catcher. So he's not going to utilize that like in that on third downs. But he's a guy that's going to show up on an NFL team. If he gets run, he's going to show out because he's got good vision. He's got good burst, knows how to get through the line of scrimmage. He's got a nose for the end zone. This is a guy that when you get into the 4th round, you're not sure where you're going at. You're trying to add a little bit of depth, maybe looking for taxi guys. This is a guy that in the middle of the season could jump up and for like a 3-4 game skid, be viable as a flex player for you, or be used as trade bait. This is a guy I like to get because I feel like he's a guy who earns touches in the NFL.
Yeah, I definitely need those guys. You got 4th, 5th round, rookie picks. That's what these guys are going to be mostly.
Yeah.
All right, so I'm going to go ahead and keep it on the running back train here, bringing up my guy, brought him up in our little mock draft the other day, Dwayne McBride out of UAB, 5'10", 216, and just a runner. He's had, I think, a total of 5 receptions his whole college career.
Yeah, I did.
Could be scheme. You never know that, but you're also like, you got 5? Like, come on. But he did put up some good numbers. So junior year, he 204 attempts, 1,371 yards, 13 touchdowns, average 6.3 yards per carry.
6.3. That's a great number.
That's fantastic.
Even against lower end competition.
Senior year comes out, 233 attempts, 1,713 yards, 19 touchdowns, average 5 yards a carry. That is something that NFL players or NFL coaches are going to be looking for, is a guy that's just going to go in and be a workhorse running back if they need that.
Yeah, I like it. I mean, we're always looking, like last year, you got a guy like Isaiah Pacheco comes out. We're all drafting him, and I don't know, maybe the 3rd round, maybe by the time how the hype was coming around, but really 4th round when we were all looking at it in the beginning.
Yeah.
And here he is now. Like, go try to trade for him right now. See what the hell it costs you. It's not cheap.
No.
And it's just opportunity where he's at. He could be easily replaced, but he's got a similar build, 5'10", 216, Pacheco. And I think what you said, McBride's 5'10", 217?
216.
216. Okay. So like very similar guys. Pacheco might be able to a little more handy out of the backfield catching passes, but I didn't really see that. I saw him more as a runner this year for KC. So, I like that's one of those guys that even though he played at a smaller school, right? Pacheco at Rutgers, McBride at UAB. Like if they can run, if you can ball, you can ball. Yeah. And if you get the NFL and you can show it, these are guys like Tony, like we keep saying, these are guys like keep your eye on them, see where they end up, watch them on practice squads, see where they go. I actually like Dwayne McBride. That's fucking awesome. You brought him up.
You're right.
Okay. So now we're going to move on to one of the tight ends here. We got a really good tight end class coming out. And I mean, you got to put Mayer and Kincaid, however you want to rank them. They're at the top. Washington, athletic freak. He's there. Musgrave, Laporta, these guys, like it's a bunch of good tight ends coming out this year. One guy I'm really paying attention to is Zach Kuntz out of Old Dominion. He is 23, 24 years old, but he's a graduate transfer to Old Dominion. So he took a full year off after he was in Penn State for 2 years. That's going to add to his age a little bit, but now he's 23, 24 years old. You got to wonder, like, is that time he missed to develop as a tight end of the NFL, or is it time like him maturing as a man and being more understanding? Shit, I don't know. Is it an age thing with tight ends when they finally break out? Is it how long you've been shown and in the mix of the NFL that makes you a better tight end? I don't know, but I'm looking at like he could maybe with that extra year of experience in college have gained a little bit more ability, and he might come in and be a little bit better for the NFL. But at 6'7", 255 pounds, he's an athletic freak, ran a 4.55. Some good things about him is he's a hands catcher mostly. He will catch the ball in his body, but a lot of times he will catch that ball away going to the sidelines. I saw a ton of like post routes for touchdowns where he reached out, right? Like this to catch the ball rather than try to drop that ball in there. That's huge because that's the difference between a ball going out of bounds and you not making the play or you scoring a touchdown.
Yeah.
Shows an ability to run good routes and see pockets and zones. Will be pushed around and let defenders get under his frame, which is going to be bad because he's so fucking tall. So in the NFL, these faster safety, stuff like that, they're going to be able to get under him. If he can learn to utilize his length rather than let it be a detriment, that's going to be huge for him.
Well, and that's what I was looking at right here, like 255 at 6'7". That's a more slender frame.
Yeah, but if you see him, he doesn't look like slender. He's he's like yoked up, right? He's not like slight of frame at 6'7", 255. He's just like a fucking power forward. You know what I mean? Like he's not an inline blocker. That's like I'm going to definitely bring that up because he's not a great blocker, but he does have good body control for being 6'7". He's not all lanky and all over the place and just flailing all over the hell and back. Like he's got good control when he's running his routes. Like he ain't got a 6'7" arm just hanging out of nowhere. It's there for a reason. He's making a cut. He's using those driving those arms really well, and he can manipulate defenders in man defense to create separation. A lot of that I saw was because of his length, because he's 6'7", so his stride. So when he plants a foot and a guy is trying to stay with him, the dude is already 3 yards off of him. And he plants that foot and comes back to the ball hard, and he's open on a lot of those routes. The quarterback at Old Dominion wasn't very good at hitting him on those. But
it probably just wasn't good overall.
yeah, his bads, as all NFL tight ends coming in as rookies, he's going to have to refine his game to the NFL level. He is not a good blocker. Yeah, he is not a good blocker. They're not going to line him up on the end of the line and just be like, we're going to run the ball right behind your ass, Zach, and go make it happen. But he does show that you can get to the second level, hold linebackers off, and has a good feel for peel blocks to get to the next level and be a helper blocker. But he does not manipulate on the line.
At 6'7", he probably just reached that middle linebacker from the starting position.
Yeah, just in a 3-point stance, reach out. No, we're running over here. Stop.
Like lurch.
He does lack a consistent release off the line of scrimmage. That's where he's going to have to learn at the NFL level, because they're not always going to be able to line up outside. Like, he's going to have to line up on the line of scrimmage. He's going to have to run from there. He's going to have to learn how to come off of those outside linebackers and DNs that are jamming him. He wasn't very good at it. He doesn't play to his athleticism all the time, which kind of blew my mind. Like, you're this big of a freak. You run a 4.5, 5.40 at 6'7", 255, and you're not really utilizing it. And I saw that mostly in game tape. He does utilize his quickness, and he has really good hand-eye coordination when he's catching the ball. But as far as running routes, you'd think a guy like that would be more refined. If he does refine at routes, could be really damn good. Not the best deep ball tracker, and he is not a tackle breaker. There are some things like, okay, I'm 6'7", 255, and I can burst down the seam and really put pressure on safeties. But if you throw the ball to me, there's a 50% chance I'm not going to catch the damn thing. And that's not a very good ratio to have as an NFL tight end. If you're going to be open enough to be thrown to, you need to be able to catch a ball. That doesn't mean he has like bad hands. It just means he needs to get better at catching the ball in traffic and having better focus. But this guy could be a steal. I think he's going to be one of the guys that's going to fall into like the 4th round. We can already see Darnell Washington starting to rate out more into the 3rd round, where after the combine, he was like early 2nd. And so Kuntz is going to continue to fall down. Go snag him up a little bit earlier. I would. If I had a late 3rd round pick and it was kind of in that foddered range, I'd snag him up and I wouldn't think anything of it. I think it's a good investment pick.
He reminds me a lot of Chig and Isaiah Likely coming out last year. You know, they're just passing tight ends. They're just fast. Just looking over at his player profiler, his lowest rank metric is his 40 time at 4.55 in the 94th percentile. Everything else is in the 98 and to 97th percentile. And his catch radius is 100.
Yeah.
Ridiculous.
Yeah, and he does use his hands really well. And that, I think that's where he'll come into play is, think of how Pat Fryermuth came in. He was a touchdown guy. Like, I think he had like 8 touchdowns in his rookie year or some shit like that. But he was a good body frame guy and used it well. And I think that's where Kuntz could come in and help out a team this year. I wouldn't be surprised to see him have like 6 freak touchdowns, right? Like,
yeah,
throughout the year. You're never going to pick it out. You're never going to know when the hell they're going to be. But all these guys are taxi squad guys that keep hammering it down. Like, these are guys, like, when you pick them up, you don't expect, like, I'm going to get something out of you. But what you do expect is, like, hey, man, when I pull you off my taxi squad to finally use you because you're going to play in a game, and then I can trade you away, like, you just traded a 3rd round pick and maybe got a 2nd round pick out of it. I don't know. Like, maybe I'm dreaming a little bit, but still.
So just looking back at the previous class, like, Daniel Bellinger ended up overtaking the New York Giants tight end room. Not much there, but he ended up as a rookie overcoming all of those guys, and he wasn't even a quarter the athlete that these top 4, 5, 6 tight ends coming out were.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, these guys.
I mean, he's not as complete as Michael Mayer. He didn't have any of the passing, receiving chops like Kuntz, Laporta, like even Latu. Like, none of these guys are anything close to they're far and above what the class was last year. And we thought those guys were good with McBride and Dulcich. Like, this is a much better class.
Yeah, and I think that has a lot. There's a huge buzz with this draft class and this draft coming up. And I think it has a lot to do with, like, we really need to know where these guys are going to land, what draft capital is behind them, because there is so much talent out there that we're hoping as fantasy players lands in really, really good spots. So it rarely happens that way.
Guy that I hope lands in a really great spot, A.T. Perry. I brought him up in the draft. So just going to go over a little bit of measurables here. 6'3", 195, a little on the lean side, but tall, length. He's 23.4 years old. 4.4 speed at 6'3", but what really sets him back is he's not super quick. He's not super fast. He's not a blazer. He is your X receiver, route running, possession guy. And there's not a lot of those in this class.
Sounds like a Keyshawn Johnson kind of guy.
Right. He's just going to be a guy that he has contested catches. He has over the middle, outside, 9 route. Like, he can do it. He's not the fastest guy, but he can make them. And then with his length, being able to just put his arms out, so much he could do for an NFL team. 71 catches, 1,293 yards receiving, averaged 18.2 yards per catch, and 15 touchdowns his junior year. Those are some smoking numbers.
Yeah, 15 touchdowns. That's a lot of numbers.
So to me, that says some red zone work. That's not just like, oh, he caught some great deep bombs. He also got some touchdown or some red zone, some goal line work.
Where did he go to school at?
He is the one from Wake Forest. That was a great junior year. He comes back for his senior year, 81 receptions, 1,096 yards, 13.5 yards receiving, and 11 touchdowns, which is still fantastic.
Yeah, that's a good year.
Despite him not being the most elite, speed guy, that's not what every player has to be. Yeah. He's going to find a place to get onto a role, be the third, fourth wide receiver, work his way into a starting role, and he's going to be a phenomenal receiver down the road.
Yeah, falls into one of those the old school 2 to 3 year window guys, right?
Yep.
We don't see many of those anymore. It seems like it's always first year, second year.
Well, that's the speed of the NFL. They have to. But I think you're getting a 4th, 5th round draft capital. He's going to be a guy that sticks around on the roster for a while, earns a spot with the coaches. He's just everything that I've seen on him, and he's a worker.
Yeah, I always think of guys when we start talking like wide receivers are going to work their way onto a team and actually get some look, some run, are guys like KJ Osborne. And I've been on him since his rookie year when he came in, and it's always the same thing. It's the opportunity that's there, the offense that's being ran, and the wide receivers that are there. And as it's gone along, you've seen KJ Osborne, not this past year, the year before, show out a little bit, and this past year show out a little bit more. And then now Thielen's gone, and now it's okay, is this finally the 4th year? Is this the year finally that KJ Osborne gets wide receiver 2 numbers and you're starting with the flex and you're like, fuck yes, I've been holding on to this guy. I've been making trades to get him on my roster, and it fucking finally pans out. These are guys like that, right? Like you go hunt down a guy, or you drafted him and you're holding him on your roster for 2 or 3 years, and then finally it's boom, that receiver left. This is the shot. Please don't fucking sign a free agent. I'm going to stay with the wide receiver theme here. Matter of fact, I'll end up on wide receivers. And the first guy I want to talk about here is Elijah Higgins from Stanford. He's a 22-year-old kid. He's 6'3", 235 pounds. He is a possession wide receiver with upside speed. He's a good hands catcher, runs clean routes with the ability to set up DBs at the top of the route. He plays faster than his 4.5 40 suggests. He's got quicks. He runs around like Deebo Samuel at 6'3", 235. He is just looking to hurt people, and he's probably going to project out to potentially be a wide tight end in the NFL just because of the mismatch he creates at the size he is. Don't be fooled. This kid could line up outside and still give corners fits because of his size and because of his route running chops. He's competitive, which we have not seen a lot of competitive wide receivers in this draft. The few we can name are like Josh Downs really comes to mind when we think about competitive wide receivers in this draft.
Oh, you mean more like assertive, like getting the ball in their hands.
Like he's going for it.
The ball. Yeah,
he's going for it. He's one of the few wide receivers you see in the draft. Addison, I think, is the best at it, and we always talk about it on out routes and comebacks and all that kind of stuff. Continuing to your quarterback when the ball comes to you rather than setting your feet and waiting for the ball to get to you. That's really huge in the NFL. That gets a lot of interceptions happening when players are sitting waiting on a ball. The DBs are too fast in the NFL. They close that ground and they get in front of you. They get that pick. Higgins is one of the few guys that I've seen and done my research on that I've seen actually coming back to passes to help his quarterback out. He doesn't have very good field awareness. If he is running that comeback route, I've seen him undercut getting a first down on a 3rd down because he's not paying attention where he's at. So he needs to make sure he's pushing those routes further in the NFL, get a couple more yards on it so that when you do come back, you're getting first downs. He'll hopefully learn that, maybe.
Yeah, I have no clue who this guy is, so I'm just absorbing knowledge here.
He is great at tracking downfield passes. I don't know if I've mentioned that he played at Stanford. Right. Yes. So you can imagine who the Stanford quarterbacks were. He's playing in the Pac-12, yada, yada.
Isn't it Tanner McKee or something coming out this year?
Couldn't even tell you that's how much. He'll need to consistently learn how to separate in the NFL, even though he has a really good route running in college. He had a tendency to be too comfortable in traffic. And so as he's pushing DBs, he wasn't so concerned about getting his separation because he knew, like, I'm going to use my size and I'm going to catch this fucking ball and I don't care. And that was the competitive I'm talking about, is like, it's almost a detriment that he's that comfortable in traffic. If he learns to get space and utilize being in traffic, he could be a mean threat for an NFL team. Some stats on him. He didn't catch a lot of passes, but I mean, it's Stanford, and Stanford doesn't throw the ball a lot. 44 catches in his junior year, 59 catches in his senior year, but 502 receiving yards his junior year, 704 in his senior year. So he's showing an ability to improve. A target share of 18.8 in his junior year, 19.1 in his senior year. So he's maintaining a decent target share on the team. And a catch rate of 62.9 his junior year. He upped that to 70.2. That's a damn good catch rate. The kid's going to be – he's a project player. So he may end up on a team, gets practice squad, gets moved around a little bit if he gets drafted. There are some people talking about him going to the third, fourth round, but I feel like that's like
a little too early for a development player.
Yeah, and it's like the layup round for everybody that sees a guy who has a little bit of talent. Just because we think he has talents and we're looking at him, we're not one of the 32 NFL teams that has to roster this guy. So I feel like he's going to end up being one of those guys that might float around a little bit. But keep your eye on him. If you can get your hands on him and get him on your taxi squad, like I keep saying, wait this kid out. He could end up being something.
And that's kind of what I think about my last player here, Dorian Thompson-Robinson. We're just going to call him DTR from now on.
I don't even know.
Quarterback out of UCLA, 6'2", 203. He's 23 years old, and he ran a 4.56 at the combine.
Burn.
He can scoot.
Yeah,
came in his senior year, had a 69.6 completion percentage, 3,169 yards passing, 27 touchdowns, 10 interceptions. Had a QB rating of 157.4. He also added in 645 yards rushing, averaged 5.5 yards rushing, and had 12 rushing touchdowns.
Not bad, dude. That's not bad.
Yeah, that's what I was researching. I'm like, woo, 12? Guy's not afraid to put his nose down and get the ball in the end zone.
I need to get my ass past Hendon Hooker on my QB research, man. If we go figure this kid out a little bit.
Watching the combine, threw okay. You know, there's some timing stuff. Not the guys you're normally used to throwing to. Not too big of a deal. Doesn't, you know, it's kind of hard to look as smooth as Stroud did. Combined season stats for his college career, 63% completion percentage. He threw over 10,000 yards, had a quarterback rating of 145.6, and he total rush of 1,800 yards rushing for his college career.
It's not bad. Did he play was he a starter for 3 years?
UCLA, 5.
Yeah. UCL for 5?
But
was
it's
that a
also
redshirt year?
COVID year, yeah.
Oh, redshirt, COVID. Okay.
Yeah,
okay.
like 3 games or whatever that season. All right, you got one more guy here for us.
Okay, so we're going to hop in. We're going to wrap this up with one last guy. Now, this is a guy, actually, that I kind of believe some of the hype that he's getting third and fourth round hype, because I actually think he's probably that talented.
I think there's just been a slow buzz about him that just hasn't come to any fruition.
Yeah, we're kind of waiting for everything to really come along, and it could be draft capital, right? Like he could go to a good spot. You know, like let's say he piles on and he's a Houston Texan paired up with Bryce Young or CJ Stroud. That's going to shoot him up. I think people are going to be pretty excited to see that. I actually like it too. We're sitting here talking all this shit. We don't even know. Nobody knows what we're talking about yet.
It's a mystery. I actually really love this guy going to the Chargers.
I'm going to say the whole fucking spiel, right? I'm going to do the whole breakdown, and then we'll say his name at the end. Okay, what do you say?
Okay.
Fucking around. Parker Washington out of Penn State. I'm sure people have heard of him because he is starting to get a little bit of buzz, and any wide receiver that's getting some third and fourth round buzz, you've probably heard of a little bit. Plus, played at Penn State, which is a pretty big school. These guys continue to churn out players that I don't like when I start off. Like, I don't get it, dude. I really don't. Jahan Dotson last year came out, and it was just something about his game that it doesn't sit right with. And I'm burying myself here in a league right now where I just accidentally traded for Jahan Dotson, and people are going to give me shit about this. But I think Parker Washington is actually better than Jahan Dotson and isn't getting the same amount of hype. I think he has better hands. I think he has a better route running tree. I think he has better after the catch ability. He's just not getting that same buzz. He's 21 years old, ran a 4.55 40. Like I said, he's got sticky hands. He's a basic slot guy with a 70% catch rate, an 8 out of 10.1, which is pretty goddamn decent. A yak of 5.7, and that of course averages out for the year at 15.8 or so like that per catch. He's got elite ball skills, catches outside of his frame. These are guys I was looking for. Even the elite top wide receivers that are being looked at in this draft, JSN, Jordan Addison, Quentin Johnston, these guys have a tendency to catch the ball in their chest with their pads, up in their shoulder pads. They don't reach out, they don't snag it, they don't command the football. These wide receivers that I'm talking about here today are guys that I saw catching the ball away from their frame. I even said it was Zach Kuntz. To me, that's huge. A guy who shows confidence in his hands in college to catch the ball just with his hands and not try to cradle it and be afraid of not making the catch. To me, that's going to translate to the NFL and make you just a better player. Washington has good speed. He's got good acceleration. He's an instinctive runner after the catch, and he's got a physical build. 5'10", 215, that's a fucking running back, right? Like we're talking about
we're
half the running backs
get that.
Yeah, that's a guy that's a fucking Debo guy when you get him the ball, and that's what you'd like to see.
That's what it's so impressed with Mingo. He's 226. I'm like, this guy's actually got some weight to him.
Yeah, Parker does struggle to create separation on routes, and it's on all routes. It's not, he doesn't have a really great route tree as far as I'm getting open on every route. He has a really great route tree as far as he's been shown the route tree. He knows it's there. He knows more and he's ran it, but he does struggle at times to get good separation in and out of his cuts and in coming back to the football. Deep passes, he shows a little bit of lack to be able to pull safeties and manipulate safeties a little bit to give him more of the sideline or whatever area he's trying to get the ball into. That's something he'll need to work on as a receiver in the NFL. He's a very raw route runner, but he can be taught. Like, he showed that he has the ability to be taught because you can see refined routes. I think he just loses focus, and it could not be a physical thing. Maybe it's just a mental thing with him, but he may have the tools, I think, to develop himself. He's got really good agility. And like I said, he's shown throughout his time at Penn State to adapt and get better at his game and at his profession. 9 games his freshman year, which was kind of his breakout year, 36 catches, 489 yards, 19.9% target share. As a true freshman, that's pretty fucking legit. Only a 59% catch rate. 13 games his junior with 64 catches, 820 yards, only 4 touchdowns, but a 70% catch rate. Still maintained a high target rate at 18.7. Tailed off a little bit in his senior year, dealt with a little bit of injury, I believe. I could be wrong on that. I hope I'm not. But played 10 games, 46 catches, 611 yards. Still had a 68.7% catch rate and saw 15.9% of the target share. So he tailed off a little bit his last year here. He's a dynamic player. He's going to find himself on an NFL team where nowadays mismatching is what it's all about. And this kid creates mismatches from the slot. Somebody I'm going to be looking into. A lot of good wide receivers I'm seeing this year that are like dart throw guys. You know, you're not gonna have a lot of hype on them, but it'll be fun to pick and choose these guys when you're getting late in drafts and, you know, making some weird trades to end up getting 2 4th rounders and walk out of your draft with Elijah Higgins and Jonathan Mingo and that kid from UCLA.
DTR.
Yeah, DTR. So that's it, isn't it? We got our 8 guys.
That's our 8 guys. They went quick.
We're good to go. We'll have to do a couple more of these. We'll try to slam them in with everything else we're doing and, you know, how close draft day is coming up. I think these are kind of important. We should try to get at least one more of these.
Sounds good.
Full-on wide receiver shows that we need to get out. I know I've touched on running backs a little bit in the past, but we'll keep pumping them out, man. We'll keep getting mocks your guys' way. You got anything else to add, Tank?
Nope.
Like it, subscribe it, all the notifications.
Later, peoples.
Bye.